Thank you for watching the Woburn Spotlight. I'm your host, Tyler Gates, here to bring you some positivity by talking to those in town, making big strides for the greater good. Today I'm really fortunate to have with me State Representative Jim Dwyer. Jim, how you doing today?
Pleasure to be here, Tyler.
It's a pleasure to have you.
I've enjoyed your shows. Way to go.
Well,
nicely done.
Today's big number 25, so I was really excited to have you
So I hit
on.
an anniversary peak here?
You did. I put a couple of shows off just to have you here.
You actually made it to 25?
I made it to 25.
I think
and they invited me back.
They did.
They invited
I
me
think
back.
Ed Walker has the record. I think it's, 1,000 shows he did or something?
I can't even imagine. I got a lot of work to do to get to that kind of level. But thanks for joining me today.
My pleasure. It really is. Thank you for having me.
So the man that needs no introduction, but in case somebody is new to the area or new to the show, do you mind just telling us a little bit about you, Jim?
No, not at all. Obviously, my name is Jim Dwyer. I'm the state representative here from Woburn, and I represent half of Reading. So I've lived here. I'm still considered a carpetbagger, by the way. I've lived here in Woburn since 1953. I moved here when I was 4 years old. So my father-in-law, who was on the police department and one of my heroes in life and role models as a very decorated police officer years ago, always reminded me that I am a carpetbagger. But I consider myself a Woburnite. Yeah. Raised my family here, 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren. I love the city of Woburn, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's just truly been a blessing to grow up in this community with so many great people, activities for children. There's no better place to grow up for a town that's youth-orientated and family-orientated in Woburn, Massachusetts. I mean, again, not to belabor the point, but I really have been, my wife and I, Mimi, and I've really, truly been blessed. It's a great town, great community that, I call it a town. It's actually a city, but it really is a town. And we take care of our own, pay attention to other people's ills, and Woburn is an unbelievable place to jump in to assist folks in need here in the city of Woburn.
It blows me away every time I get to see, you know everybody's name in the room, and if you don't, you make a point to find out. And,
exactly.
And I really appreciate that. Not being from Woburn, I love the town feel. I know you say it's a city, but it drew me in because I come from a small town, Maine. And it really does feel like a small town with bigger numbers.
It is. I mean, we do so much for our youth in the city. I mean, with with the sports and the education, we've got great educational system in the city of Woburn. Great leadership, both on the school committee and with our city council. I was a proud member of the city council for a very short period of time. I still don't know how they do it every day. But unlike a lot of other communities, Woburn really is a place that the elected officials, I've found, really care about the city. We can disagree on different policies, and that's what democracy is all about. But all in all, I can tell you that every elected official that I know in the city really, really cares about the town. Really cares about the town and its citizens, and obviously the educational and the quality of life benefits that we have here in the city. And I know you talk about your time on the city council. Just jumping back a bit, because I knew you really got involved at a young age. You were involved with youth sports, youth hockey, if I'm correct. I played myself,
and
I guess I have one claim to fame. I was captain of the world's worst Woburn High hockey team. Okay. Back in 1967. But I played a lot of the athletics. Talk about our service clubs in the city, Woburn Rotary, Lions. I can just go on and on and on and on.
I bet you can.
I played for the Lions Cubs. And the only reason I say that is because our service clubs in the city have really made our city the way it is, and have really chipped in on just a myriad of different things. Local events, Flag Day, Festival on the Common, the Lions Parade. And so the service clubs have been great. Yes, I was actually involved in the first time they had Woburn Youth Hockey. And
the first year?
I believe so. Eddie McColgan was a coach of the team, and Eddie asked me if I'd come and be an assistant coach. I think I was either in prep school or I think I might have been in prep school. Just graduated from high school and I was going to prep school. I think I was involved in that. Joe Crowley was there. It was the very first youth hockey program in the city of Woburn. And it was actually the funny part about that. A lot of people don't realize this, and I'll say this, and a lot of people will scratch their head when I say it, but Woburn Youth Hockey had their inaugural season over at the Melrose Car Barns. And there were 2 rinks. One was upstairs and one was downstairs. And the downstairs rink actually had a pole in the middle of the rink. Now, have you ever heard of a hockey rink with a pole in it?
No.
That is a fact. That is a truth. I often say that to people, and they look at me and say, "You got to be kidding me!" No, it did. It had a pole in the middle of the rink.
Oh my gosh, I laugh because you're right. I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah, of all things, a hockey with a pole in it. But yeah, I did a lot. I did that, and obviously played a lot of youth sports here, and it kind of segued into. Adult softball and the hockey leagues, the Midnight League, and we've got to be old to remember that league. But a lot of the recreational leagues in the city that we had. So that's how I got started, and then I became a juvenile probation officer.
Yeah, spent some time there. I know you spent quite a time.
35 years.
35 years?
Yeah, 35 years. I retired as a chief probation officer with the juvenile court. I had Middlesex County with a couple of other gentlemen and ladies, and when they created the new courts back in 1996, I was a juvenile probation hands-on PO in Woburn District Court. Ironically, I had the town of Reading, which I wound up representing. Got to know a lot of good people over in Reading through that. So that's actually been my passion for all those years. 35 years, I try to help troubled families and kids and stuff, and been very, very closely worked with the local school systems, which I thought was very, very important. Trying to keep kids in school, keep kids engaged instead of dropping out. So that was a tremendous effort, and then that kind of segued into me running for city council. So I've been encouraged to run for city council.
What was that like? Going from
city council, well, it was a new experience for me.
That's why I asked. What was that like for you?
I never ran for a thing in my life. Never wanted to run for a thing in my life.
That's fair.
And but I got a little bit the urge, and my wife gave me the okay, and I did run, and I won, and I enjoyed my years in the city council. But as I had kind of mentioned it before, I don't know how these long-standing city councilmen and school committee people do it. I have the ultimate respect for these folks.
Yeah.
Because it is a very difficult job. It's like
demanding.
It is demanding. It's like being mayor of the city of Woburn. I mean, it's a 24/7 environment. If you're out shopping at Market Basket, you have people coming at me. If you're having something to dinner, they want their potholes filled. But it's the nitty gritty. It's where the basics is. It's where the rubber hits the road, so to speak.
Yeah.
And but I enjoyed my time there. I really did. But then the opportunity came to run for state representative. I had some folks come to me and ask me to kind of think about it, and I did, obviously. And I was very, very fortunate to have. Oh my God, I had gazillion people that came and helped me out. I worked hard at it. I door knocked like I did for city council. I door knocked in Ward 4. I think I hit everybody's door twice when I ran for city council. As a matter of fact, I had a gentleman on Michigan Road, I'll never forget it, and won't mention his name. He's a dear friend of mine. And he had said to me when I was coming up his driveway for the third time, right before the elections, "Jimmy, don't have to worry about this. You've got the vote." So. I worked hard at it.
And you were working hard at a time that wasn't maybe as friendly for a politician to go out knocking.
No, it was a difficult time when I ran for state representative. It was that time where we had two Boston politicians. One was on their city council, I believe, and the other one was their state senator. It was all over TV about them graft money, taking money and put it in their pockets and things. So it was kind of key on the TV from when they were caught through the process of being tried. And so a lot of people would naturally, you would think a lot of people would say, what the issues are, and that's true, they did. But a lot of it kind of caught me by surprise and kind of saying, well, I can't stand politicians. They're not honest. And in that particular instance, at that particular time, they were right. So I tried to dispel, I had people ask me, "Are you going to be honest?" Well, what am I going to say? Of course I'm going to be honest, but I meant it, and I kind of formulated into the promises that I made as far as honesty, integrity, and character. I think I've upheld those traits, but that's for other people to decide whether I did or not. I tried to do the best I could for that.
Yeah.
So I just try to I don't want to make too many promises, but I just wanted to do something to restore faith in people that not all elected officials are like that. There are some elected officials out there that really are running for best interest and not self-interest. And loving the city, it's a pretty good thing to think that you could bring your family up here. You could grow up here as a child, go to the Wyman School, which is shutting down with the new Harold Wyman. My piece of my heart went with the Wyman School. I went there. Both my daughters went there. Both my grandchildren went there. So, you know, see that go. So to love the city and grow up in the city and to actually be elected, to have people actually put faith in you that you're going to go into Boston and do the right thing, I think the most important thing was not to betray anybody's trust, to put the trust in you.
Yeah.
And again, it's just for other people to judge whether I did it or not.
Yeah.
I did the best I could to come within that striking distance, that's for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I think makes a whole lot of sense is you said to me once, I wasn't perfect, but I tried hard and I did the best that I could. You know, that's all we can do in life, right?
That's all we can do in anything.
And that's what I mean.
It's
yeah,
anything.
Really,
You know, my grandchildren are all involved in youth hockey and youth sports, and every one of them are. And you often say, look, you're not going to be perfect every game, but when you get up in the morning and you put your uniform on, that's what I correlate putting my suit, coat, and tie on to go to Boston.
Yeah.
When you at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself. Did you do the best you could today?
Yeah.
You might have won, you might have lost. That's not the point. The point is that you give it your best effort. And if you can, I think it goes a long way in how you feel about yourself and how other people feel about you.
Yeah. So that brings us kind of through the progression of where you started, where you are today. I know there's a few topics that are near and dear to your heart that we wanted to chat about, and now might be a great opportunity to kind of segue into that.
Yeah.
So one of the ones that you kind of led into there was party politics. Not a fan, I know. We spoke at length about that.
Yeah.
Do you want to just touch upon that briefly?
Well, I'm not a big fan of party politics. It sounds funny that a politician would say that.
Yeah.
I ran as a Democrat. But when I grew up, a Democrat was far different than a Democrat is today. I don't like the party politics on both sides. I don't like most of the Democratic politics, and I don't like a lot of the Republican politics. When I got elected, I think the folks in Boston, in the House of Representatives, kind of thought, well, he's a Democrat, he's going to, you know, I tried to be as bipartisan as I possibly could. I didn't consider myself, I considered myself to be somebody to go in there, look at each issue, okay, whether it was proposed by a Republican or proposed by a Democrat. If that was what I thought first the folks back home were in line with, then I would support that.
Always thinking about the folks back home.
Exactly. That's the first thing I vote on. And this sounds political, but it's not. I mean, I felt as though there was a solemn trust given to me. And when it comes to a general election, there is no Democrat, Republican. Everybody votes in a general election. And to think that folks would vote for me, Republican and Democrat, okay, I took that very, very seriously. So when I go in there and I assess an issue, I want to make sure that first priority is what the folks back home want me to do.
Right.
If I can't get a sense of it, then you have to use your best judgment.
Right.
But it isn't the best judgment from a selfish standpoint. It's the best guesstimate on what is generally good for the consensus.
Yeah.
So I tried to do that. I wasn't too endeared with, the leadership wasn't too endeared with me. You know, I had some gentleman years and years ago when I first ran said to me, he says, Jimmy, don't you understand that Democrats never sponsor Republican legislation? Now think about that. Tyler, let that sink in. That's like saying that you never, ever, ever sponsor something that's Republican. Or I'm sure there's folks on the other side that you never support anything as Democrat. To me, that was so alien. So from that point in time, I knew I was in a very, very difficult spot.
Yeah.
But I've tried to keep my independence over the 5 terms that I've had, which is coming to an end very shortly. And I've kept my independence. I voted for what I thought was the right thing to do. And I think basically the folks back home, by re-electing me 5 times now, I think that they kind of generally agree. But that's for them to say, not for me to say.
Yeah, I appreciate how you put that. You've had 5-term career, long career. Do you have any moments you look back and reflect on that were inspirational to you, powerful to you, just kind of that most memorable or just most proud moment that you have?
Well, one more moment that comes right off the top is the day I was sworn in. You know, you're on the house floor, and I'm with my desk, and I have my wife Mimi there, and my 2 daughters on the floor with me, and my first grandchild, just born.
That's something.
And my mom and dad were in the gallery, and to be sworn in and to raise your hand to take the oath, which I take very, very seriously. You have to remember, you're taking an oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but also of our nation and our country.
Yeah.
So you're taking that oath, and that's a very solemn oath you take.
Yeah.
And before you raise your hand, you have to understand it's a solemn oath. But to stand there that day to raise my hand and be sworn in, and I think when it really hit me was, I'm on this side of the floor of the house, and they got the 2 tote boards there. And my name's right in the middle of the tote board over there, and I had never seen the tote boards before.
Yeah.
So just before you take your oath, they opened up the tote board, and there's my name. So then I'm looking at the tote board, and I'm raising my hand, I'm saying, oh boy, this is serious stuff.
Yeah.
So the first thing that came to my mind was, dun, 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 dun. You know, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
How am I going to do it? Because when you first get elected, you're assuming that everybody in that chamber is smarter than you. And what I learned very, very quickly is that if you have some common sense, and you got your feet grounded on the floor, and you don't take yourself too seriously, and you don't think you're as smart as other people think you are. But I think with common sense, they don't get a degree in college for common sense. But I think if you got your feet grounded, know where you came from, appreciate the folks who voted for you, whether they voted for you or not, it's irrelevant. That, you know, common sense, you don't get a degree in college, as I said. So I think I learned very, very quickly that I belong there.
Yeah, you could hold your own there.
Yeah, that I could hold my own, that I belong there.
Yeah.
The other aspect that really, and we've had this conversation, was when Jack McGuire was murdered.
Yes.
By
I
the,
know that. He was a close personal friend of yours.
Yeah, I was. You know, I like Jack. My father-in-law was on the police force with Jack's dad, who was the chief. And I think Jack's dad and my father-in-law came in to the police department right after World War II with Leo McElhenney and Bobby Dowd and, you know, Freddie Marshall. These are all my heroes growing up. And it was, I knew Jack very well. I worked with Chuck McGuire in probation.
Brother, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So I mean, that was a very traumatic time for me, and to get the call that night that a police officer was down in the city of Woburn. I mean, Woburn was traumatized.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were here at the time, but it was a traumatized community because those things don't happen in Woburn. And I'm sure other communities that it happens to feel the same way we do. But Woburn is so close-knit, so close together. I mean, it really is. So, I mean, it hit Woburn extremely hard. And now it's my opportunity. I have to do something. I received some very, very caustic emails. One in particular, unfortunately, a neighbor of mine, who really didn't know the kind of person I was, I guess, sent me, well, I'm looking at you, you're just nothing but another politician, and I want you to get up off your rear end and do something about this. I have 1,000 Facebook friends, and you know, I'm assuming you're not going to do anything, and you know, that really hurt me here.
I'm sure it did.
Because this person never gave me the opportunity to either succeed or fail. Right away, I was no good.
That's tough.
So, you know, combined with a few of those, and frankly, the lack of support from some of my colleagues,
yeah,
you know, we really needed to do something about that. So I was very fortunate to meet Les Gossel, whose daughter Melissa was murdered by circumstances similar to what Jack was. Both those killers were folks that received life sentences, but yet they were let out to perpetrate Les's daughter's murder and Jack's murder. So Les Gossel had his bill in there that was like similar to it was a 3 strikes and you're out bill.
Yeah.
In other words, those guys aren't going to get out anymore. Mm-hmm. So I really did a lot of due diligence. That was my passion at that particular time. Mm-hmm. I support the police, support the fire. I think we're very fortunate to have great police department and great fire department. And working in
That works so
probation
well,
all
yeah.
my life, I worked with police, and my brother-in-law was a very decorated firefighter that retired here in the city of Woburn. So, we come from that kind of, passion and gene pool, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I got together with Les and Bruce Todd, that was the senator from Ipswich area.
Okay.
So we got together and we essentially demanded that Melissa's bill be taken out of committee and looked at. So we revamped all Melissa's bill. It was the three of us. And we wound up convincing the governor at the time, Deval Patrick, to reform the parole board to let these people out. And what happened was the whole parole board was revamped from A to Z.
Wow.
Yeah, they brought in Josh Wall.
Okay.
That was part of my recommendation. And Josh, I knew through the Suffolk County DA's office. He came in. We revamped the whole parole board. So now the parole board, the mistake that was made was the victims of that were never notified by the parole board that somebody's up for hearing. As simple as that. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah.
A victim's family should always, always have the
Yeah.
right to know. That very simple thing was revamped. So it was passed in the House, the new 3 strikes and you're out bill. Bruce Todd took care of it in the Senate, I took care of it in the House, and one of the proudest moments I had was to stand up in the well of that House and very passionately speak to ask that bill be approved and passed.
Yeah.
And it passed, I think, it was all but 16 votes that passed that bill. It was unanimous. And I think a week later, the governor signed it on a Friday with about 2 hours left before that deadline would run out. He did sign it,
Yeah.
and it became law, so.
That must have been a really proud moment.
Yeah,
for
it
you.
was, because, you scratch your head, you feel all alone. Even though you're in the community, it's you. It's you that need to step forward and do something. And at the time, I just got elected. I really didn't know how to go about it. But I had some guidance and I had some suggestions, and with Les and Bruce, we went forward, we did it, and it got passed, and I'm very, very proud of having that done.
As you should be.
No, thank you
As you
very
should
much.
be.
Thank you.
You've done a lot. What's next?
Oh, I don't know. I had a pretty good one the other day. Since my first term, I've filed the Jeepers Creepers. I've had the sales tax holiday. I've filed it every single year. And the sales tax holiday is at the discretion of the leadership. Some years they have it, some years they haven't. They haven't had it the last 2 years.
Right.
So my bill has never gone anywhere. But finally this year, as part of the grand bargain, was when the millionaire's tax, the Supreme Court said that couldn't go on the ballot. So they got together and they started to revamp and come to with the other ballot initiatives, which was the sales tax and minimum wage. And so they actually allowed that bill to be part of the grand bargain that was unanimously voted, not unanimously, I think there was 5 or 6 votes against the grand
Your
bargain.
bit was in there. Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
and let me tell you, I was the most surprised guy in the world,
That's
for them
great.
to, yeah, very much so. So that's one thing to finally get out of committee towards the end of my career, so I'm really, really proud, and I think it was the right thing to do. Taxpayers need a little break here and there, and everybody flies to New Hampshire, and when you're a family and you're bringing up a family of 5 and you're working very, very hard, you try to save every nickel and dime. So for me to say it's wrong to go there, I don't know, but I wanted to make sure that small business was taken care of. And this is one small way that small business will be taken care of. People are now more apt to go downtown on the sales tax holiday. And our downtown areas need to a little be boosted as far as business is concerned.
Yeah, and on the small business note, you've been voted Legislator of the Year for from a small business organization.
I was, 2014.
2014?
Yeah, small business gave me the Legislator of the Year because I spoke up for small business, tried to do the best. I shopped small business myself, and I try to do the best I can to, not just here in Woburn and Reading. I represent Reading too, and sometimes folks forget I represent half the town of Reading, which is a fabulous place.
Yeah.
So I try to support if I need something and cards and things. I try to go to the Hallmark store, the Hitching Post in Reading, downtown Woburn. I try to do the best I can to buy things locally.
So, you don't seem to slow down. You're around locally. Are you planning on getting, I know you were very active in nonprofits and community involvement prior to kind of going all in. You going to still do so moving forward? What are you thinking?
I'm glad because you're involved with folks with developmental disabilities, from my understanding.
Yeah, New Path here
right.
in Woburn.
And I was on New Path before it was New Path.
Yeah, that was a nice conversation we had.
Yeah, I was, I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, and any good things you can do for folks with developmental disabilities, you should be doing it. And I was a board member at, it was CMARC at the time, now it's New Path.
Yep.
I'm very involved with EMARC over in Reading, and very involved here at Woburn High School with the launch program and Best Buddies. And Best Buddies had their graduation, the launch program had their graduation a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, good.
And they invited me, and they gave me a nice little token of their appreciation and put my face up on the screen, and everything was very touching, to be honest with you, you know. And as far as awards are concerned, I got the Providers Council Legislative of the Year Award in 2013. And the Provider Council is the council that's statewide. So they do all the funding for the out-of-placements, the programs, the residential homes that New Path has. The Providers Council is like one-stop shopping.
Oh, okay.
So I try to file as many legislative initiatives for folks with mental disabilities and New Path. So we try to do it. So I'm thinking I'm going to continue doing that. That's for sure.
I'm sure you'll be around.
Yeah. And the Challenger Little League, by the way, on Saturday morning at 9:30 having their last game of the year. So I encourage anybody that might be watching this before Saturday, come out and support Challenger baseball.
Okay.
It's a great program. So they'll be at Weaver Park on Saturday morning.
Great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I am excited to have you back closer to maybe September we talked about, and we'll get you back on the show. I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything else? I know we're getting close to our deadline. Do you have anything that you'd like to leave the viewers with today?
No, just I wanted to say a little bit about the civility in government.
Please do.
In our electoral process. And we all see what's going on TV and the anger and the venom that's going back and forth, and that's so unfortunate. It has no place in civil society, to be honest with you. Both sides can take blame for this, but for all my years of being in politics, I've always tried to listen to an opposite viewpoint. I never thought that I was right all the time, and always tried to get an opinion other than mine. And I think I've been very accessible to doing that. And I think that's what government officials should be doing. Not encouraging violence, not harassing people in restaurants, not swearing at people in Capitol.
Yeah.
And certainly not from the other side either, saying, take that person out, or punch this person. It's so alien to my feeling that I felt as though I really had to say it today, because I'm very, very saddened when I turn on the TV every day and we see these things. And I think that has no place in a civil society, let alone politics. We should be agree to disagree and have differences of opinion and respect somebody else's opinion, not just encourage violence because they hold a different opinion than yours. So I didn't want to get a lot of political on this, but that's...
I'm glad you mentioned it, though. You're right. That's a very prevalent thing in our society right now, and I like the term agree to disagree. That's been something I've been raised on, and seems like we're having a harder time disagreeing.
But we live in a great community here in Woburn.
We do.
I don't see that here in Woburn. We can disagree on issues, but I don't see the violence and the venom and the encouraging of violence. Because remember, municipal elections should be municipal elections. There should be no party affiliation when you run for a municipal job. You shouldn't be pro-Trump or anti-Trump when you're running for a municipal job. It's a nonpartisan election, and it should always stay as a nonpartisan election. And I think Woburn's done a fabulous job of keeping it nonpartisan. Great point, and we'll leave it there. Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
for the
coming
opportunity.
It was a pleasure today. And thank you all for watching today's show, the Woburn Spotlight, our 25th episode. We're excited for another one. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again next time.